You won't believe how Eminem's razor-sharp honesty and relentless wordplay transformed him into one of the most controversial, yet undeniably influential, artists in hip-hop history. And hey, welcome to Music Press, where you can discover and learn more about a new artist every single day. Subscribe for videos delivered daily to your homepage. Born Marshall Bruce Mathers III in 1972, he grew up on the fringes of Detroit, immersed in a world of hardship that found its voice through underground rap battles. "At first, I was just scribbling down lines to stay sane," he admitted in an early interview. "I never imagined I'd one day be telling my story to millions." That story, filled with familial conflict, poverty, and a desperation to be heard, would soon take the music industry by storm. By the late 1990s, he'd introduced the world to his chaotic alter ego Slim Shady via the Slim Shady LP. The album was a mix of cartoonish violence, sardonic humor, and deeply personal anguish. One of the record's most striking elements was how it toyed with perspective, letting Eminem submerge himself into the psyche of a character who spoke the darkest, most jarring thoughts that crossed his mind. Critics were split. Was he genuinely advocating for the mayhem he rapped about, or was it performance art designed to shock and provoke? He addressed the tension, saying, "Shady's the guy who says what I can't. It's the ugliest part of me, but it's still me." Despite, or perhaps because of, the controversy, tracks like My Name Is propelled him onto MTV, daytime radio, and into the crosshairs of parents and politicians who labeled him a moral threat. As he moved forward, Eminem's lyricism became even more layered. The Marshall Mathers LP dove deeper into real-life traumas, from his rocky relationship with his mother to anger at the media. One of its defining moments is Stan, in which he employs a fan's obsessive letters to highlight themes of celebrity worship, mental health, and miscommunication. The track's haunting narrative, told largely through Stan's frantic words, culminates in a tragedy that continues to spark debate around fan-celebrity relationships. Eminem explained in a magazine piece, "I wanted people to see the other side of fame, where someone invests so much in you that they forget their own life." The complexity of that narrative, shifting between Stan's perspective and Eminem's, demonstrated an intricate storytelling craft not always associated with mainstream rap. Even in high-energy bangers like The Real Slim Shady, Eminem threaded a critique of celebrity culture and the music industry through punchlines aimed at pop stars and tabloid headlines. He'd hurl comedic insults with effortless rhyme schemes, then, almost in the same breath, expose the hypocrisy he saw in the system. Analysis of lines in that song reveals how he condensed biting satire into quick, catchy hooks, ensuring that even as the track topped charts worldwide, it was simultaneously dismantling the very machine that was promoting it. This duality, using pop success to parody pop culture, became one of his signature moves. Across the Eminem shows and encore, he shifted from carnival-like shock to raw confession. Tracks like Cleanin' Out My Closet took listeners even closer to the turmoil that shaped him, referencing childhood wounds and paternal absence. Meanwhile, he faced constant backlash for lyrics deemed homophobic, misogynistic, or overly violent. He defended himself, arguing that Slim Shady was hyperbolic, a product of his environment. But as he accumulated Grammys and skyrocketed album sales, calls for accountability grew louder. In response, he began to reckon with the potential harm of certain words, forming alliances with artists like Elton John in defiance of critics who claimed he'd never genuinely atone. It wasn't a neat resolution, but it revealed glimpses of a more self-aware artist trying to navigate the demands of stardom, free speech, and personal values. In 2002, the release of Lose Yourself from the 8 Miles soundtrack bridged hip-hop and mainstream pop culture in an unprecedented way. Centered on a message of seizing opportunity despite crushing fear, it soared from Detroit's battle rap circles to the Oscars, where it won Best Original Song. Eminem himself was absent from the ceremony. He famously didn't believe he stood a chance, but his triumph there symbolized the underdog narrative that had driven his career. When asked about the track's resonance, he mused, "Everybody has a moment where it's do or die. That song's about taking your shot, no matter where you come from." After personal struggles with addiction and a brief hiatus, he returned with albums like Relapse and Recovery, each reflecting different stages of sobriety and self-examination. On Relapse, he indulged in horrorcore themes, but fans noticed a weariness, a sense that he was grappling with the ghosts of his past. Then on Recovery, he openly tackled his drug dependency, with tracks such as Not Afraid showing a rare motivational side. Rapping about self-improvement and resilience felt like a major shift, one that revealed he was ready to let go of some of the destructive energy that had been both a creative catalyst and a personal burden. I needed to prove to myself I could make music again without the crutches I'd relied on, he said in one interview. Awards followed him almost everywhere he went. Multiple Grammys, Billboard Music Awards, and Diamond-certified albums affirmed his commercial success. In 2022, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a milestone that put him alongside the genre's most revered figures. Yet the moral conversations never faded. Lines he'd written years ago were scrutinized in a new era defined by heightened sensitivity to language and representation. When asked if he regrets certain lyrics, he admitted, "Maybe I could have said some things differently. But at the time, that was my reality. I was angry, lost, and it felt like the only way to be heard." Some fans see this as him owning his past. Others argue it's not enough. Whichever side you land on, it's hard to deny that Eminem changed the boundaries of what rap could address, both sonically and thematically. Activism wasn't always front and center, but he established the Marshall Mathers Foundation to aid at-risk youth in Detroit, quietly donating to local organizations that support music programs. He's participated in charity events and used his platform to speak on crises like the Flint water situation, though usually steering clear of public heroics. One of his collaborators once said, "He's not the type to make a big show out of giving. He'd rather just do it." Fashion-wise, Eminem's transformation reflected his internal journey. Early Slim Shady days featured bleach blonde hair, baggy jeans, and a silver chain, a rebellious uniform that matched his lyrical aggression. After rehab, he switched to darker hoodies, caps pulled low, letting the music, and not flamboyant clothing, take the lead. Fans debate whether his toned-down style signals a shift in persona or just a more private, grounded Marshall Mathers. Either way, it underscores how closely his external presentation has tracked with his mental and emotional states. Culturally, he broke open conversations about whiteness in hip-hop, a genre rooted in black expression. Some hailed him as a hip-hop Elvis, bringing rap to suburban teenagers worldwide. Others accused him of profiting off a culture that wasn't his. Eminem, for his part, repeatedly called himself a guest in hip-hop, acknowledging that he owed everything to the black pioneers who created the art form. "I never forget where rap came from," he's noted, "and I know I gotta honor that." Decades after his debut, Eminem remains as galvanizing as ever. New generations discover his discography on streaming services, dissecting complex rhyme schemes that push rap's technical limits. Debates rage on about whether his shock tactics were artistic genius or crossing ethical lines. And yet the legacy is irrefutable. He expanded lyrical boundaries, threw taboo topics into the mainstream, and crafted a personal narrative so raw it redefined how a rapper could share their story. "I'm just a guy who grew up with nothing, spitting rhymes about what I see in my head," he once said. That unfiltered candor, layered with an unmatched technical precision, is precisely what keeps fans listening and keeps critics on their toes. Year after year,